Hello, and welcome to this edition of Energy Connects Discussions with me, Julian Walker. So I speak to leading energy executives and experts around the world for Energy Connects, our global platform for the entire energy industry. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Bjorn Otto, who's the chair of the Executive Committee of the Oil and Gas Climate Initiative, or OGCI. He's also been Equinor's Senior Vice President for Corporate Sustainability since 2015. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me on your show.
We've got lots to discuss, and I thought I just want to kick off to really hear or understand more about what you're looking to achieve with OGCI's Zero Methane Emissions Initiative.
So OGCI is quite a unique organization. It brings together, it's a CEO-led group, and it brings together 12 of the largest oil and gas companies in the world. And actually those companies are household names, Aramco, CNPC in China, but also all of the European majors, ENA, BP, Shell, as well as the American Exxon, Chevron, and Petrobras. So the group represents nearly 30% of the world's oil and gas. So we have a big, effort on overall decarbonization. How could we be a catalyst for change? Over the last years, we have done a lot of work on methane. And actually, we believe it's a very important and unfortunately not so much talked about climate gas. And we have done a lot of work. We have actually been able to bring our own emissions down by 30%. And we invested in a lot of new important technologies. But recently, we felt the time was to make one big step forward. And that's why we launched this very bold ambition of aiming for zero methane initiative. And Julian, in short, it's a call for a shift in approach in the industry to say, instead of thinking of methane emissions as something that's there and that we can do incremental improvement and gradual improvement over time, we said, why don't we start thinking of this in the same fashion as this industry has done with safety incidents and oil spills? Not promising that there will be, kind of ruling out that there will be incidents, but it's a promise of effort to say, we would like to get rid of all of them. So basically, it's a zero tolerance approach. And the heart of the matter is that we believe that virtually all methane emissions can and should be avoided. And this is a massive step forward for the industry.
Yes, I was going to say that. I think that sort of ties into what I wanted to sort of see, how you feel the oil and gas industry needs to change how it approaches, methane emissions. And I think you sort of highlighted a bit there.
Yeah, should we talk a bit about numbers? Because around 350 million tons of methane are emitted every year. That's human-based or man-made emission. Nearly 80 of that, or nearly a quarter or so, is related to the oil and gas industry. So if you're going to fix methane, the oil and the industry needs to do its part, right? And the beautiful thing is that we also understand fairly well where those emissions are coming from. There are a couple of, the main sources are, at some places there are direct venting. Basically, that the oil and gas industry has designed equipment that only will work if natural gas is being released. Then you have flaring, which is another big chunk. And of course, when you're flaring natural gas, most of that is converted to CO2. But if the flare is not complete, you still have some residual emissions of methane. And then you have tanks and storage facilities that bleeds off natural gas. You have cracks in pipelines that leaks off. So in some, there are plenty of sources. But the beautiful thing is that for many of them, we know where the emissions are and we know how to fix it. So I think this is the right time to make a call for action and to signal a shift in attitude among the oil and gas. And that's why we designed this Aiming for Zero Methane initiative, mainly as a leadership initiative. Leaders of companies joining and saying, in my company, we're going to think differently around methane going forward. And we're going to put into the measures needed in order to bring emissions down.
Yeah, and I think we were interested to hear, who have you got on board so far? And as you've implied there, it's really important to obviously have big energy players backing this initiative and showing that the oil and gas industry is changing.
So we have, I think, a strong list of the initial founders of the initiatives. Of course, the oil and gas OGCI member companies. So that's Aramco, BP, Shell, Total, and the ones. And then we also now doing some deliberate outreach, inviting many more companies to join, because even if some of the OGCI members have already worked hard and brought their methane emissions down, reality is that the methane emissions or leaks are way too widespread worldwide. So we have this deliberately designed it to be inclusive, to invite more companies on. So right now we have established a web page, and we'd love to see more companies joining. And if you're watching this, I think you should ask yourself, do my company have some methane emissions? Or are we somehow involved in being a supporter of helping the industry, either by providing technical solutions or something else that can help accelerate this effort to drive emissions out? So at the start, Julian, we have been targeting some of the bigger names in the industry, both when it comes to oil and gas producers as well as service companies. And I'm very optimistic, or I know that in the coming weeks, we will be announcing several big names and big industry players joining the initiative. It makes me optimistic, of course. I'm not going to stop. And I think, let's look towards the upcoming COP, perhaps even more so for the COP in Abu Dhabi, more than a year away from now. And let's get there as an industry with a big coalition and saying, hey, we got it. And we're gonna fix this.
Great. Well, that's really good to hear. And I think, what it sounds like is you feel you've come out, and then you've got to build momentum, and that sounds exciting.
Yeah, and making a promise of effort is important, and setting the right tone from the top is important. But at the end of the day, we need to be able to deliver results. But it needs to start with some kind of recognition that there is a challenge, because have in mind, methane is 25 times more, at least, have 25 times more global warming potential than CO2. So it is particularly important also in the shorter term to address that. It's also a good business case because it protects ensures the attractiveness of natural gas, right? If you're able to reduce that. And also, if we're envisioning a future where you see more of a hydrogen economy and you can do green and blue hydrogen, addressing methane challenges is important. And on top of that, of course, we're in a period where there's a lot of uncertainty around the balance of energy, and getting even more products to the market is important.
Yeah, and I think that sort of ties in. Well, commenting there about the different technologies are going to play a big role in helping the industry reduce methane emissions.
I think technology is important, of course, to both lower the cost of mitigations, but also raising awareness and visibility. Have in mind, methane is the same as natural gas, basically, and it's invisible. So for many years, it was an invisible problem. But with new technology, you can see it with a handheld camera. New technologies have developed to allow you to have sensoring and a high degree to very quickly detect methane leaks. And even more exciting, you're seeing drones being applied for monitoring, airplanes and aviation monitoring, and even satellite monitoring. So in one way, invisible problem has become visible. And it makes it easier to both, and also there's nowhere to hide, right? So it makes it easier to, more, if you have a challenge, quickly fix it. So I think you will continue to see a lot of technology on the monitoring side being developed. And then also on how to design instrumentation, a new type of valves. You will see a lot of technology on that. And then ideally, of course, you would also see a more of a platforms emerging that allows you to integrate those monitoring, reporting, and performance management integrated as a whole. So I think there is a physical agenda, technical agenda for engineers. There is a data science and integration, and then there's also a whole bunch of satellites and digital and artificial intelligence to be able to extract what is really a methane leak and what is just something else.
And it's sort of, as you said earlier at the beginning of the interview, quite a unique position that you're in OGCI with all your founding members to be able to really focus people's minds on this issue. That's the start of the initiative that you've come up with.
Yeah, but of course it builds on, I think it builds on two things. So the initiative that we launch now is meant as a supplement to already very well functioning, very good, very important industry initiatives. Let me mention just a few. So a few years ago, Shell in particular took the leadership to establish something called the Methane Guiding Principles. That group has brought together both industry and academia and institutes to really try to zoom in on how do you actually address methane challenges? What are the procedures, the practices you need in order to bring emissions down in your operations? Very important work. And then you have the Oil and Gas Methane Partnership 2.0, which also comes with the idea of what does good look like, right? With verification. So we don't see ourselves as a rival to those, but rather a reinforcement of the tone from the top. The challenge now, Julian, is that, and this is probably a myth around the oil and gas industry, because we talk a lot about the oil and gas industry, but the debate is circling around a handful of companies that we know the name of. But most of the oil and gas in the world is produced by companies that none of us know the name of. They are typically national oil and gas companies, smaller players, some of them are not listed, and there are hundreds of companies. So this is a global challenge. So the job is basically how are we able to reach out to bring also those companies on board to both raise the awareness of the challenge and also inspire the change, and then perhaps even give a helping hand to fix it.
Great. Well, I think that's a really good point. And I think those are probably some of the, as you mentioned, that's the big hurdles that the oil and gas industry faces when it comes to sort of climate change, how they, present themselves, but also how they're dealing with it. And again, if you're not listed or under sort of, stockholder scrutiny, there's an issue there.
Yeah, so in many ways, if you're going to fix climate, you need to fix the energy system. And the energy system is very much oil and gas, right? So I think this industry has a very important role to play. So last year in OGCI, we decided on a new strategy. So the first part of that was basically to say that all of these companies will work to bring all of their own emissions from their operations down to net zero within the time frame of the Paris Agreement. A tremendous promise. So nearly 1 billion tons of CO2 emission each year is covered by that ambition. The second pillar was to reach out towards the broader part of the industry and help, both inspire, but also help to address both flaring, methane, and overall CO2 footprint of the industry. And then, of course, we have an extremely important role to also help build the future energy system. So be that with carbon capture and storage, be that with hydrogen, be that investing in renewables or storage, be that in developing new generations of fuels, synthetic fuels. So there's a long list of activities that all of these companies are involved in. And I think it's a very interesting period in the industry. And I'm quite impressed by the dynamics going on now.
Oh, that's really good to hear. And just before we close off, you sort of mentioned COP, obviously it's going to be in Sharm el Sheikh, but for Africa in November, and then the UAE the following year. But yeah, how important of these kind of shows, or the COPs, to sort of bring everyone together? We had Glasgow in the UK. How important is the COPs for getting the energy industry, which obviously wasn't involved in COP26, but obviously I think in the other ones they're going to be?
No, so OGCI, the Oil and Gas Climate Initiative, was basically founded ahead of the Paris Agreement. One of the main purposes was to send a signal to the negotiators and the countries that this industry would like to see an ambitious Paris Agreement, and we are ready to be part of that. And I think that goes like a red thread through our activities. We would like to do our part. And the nature of the global, climate change is so, and also that of the energy system is so fundamental. So not one company or a group of companies, even if they can do more than most, cannot solve it alone. So I think we believe the collaborative spirit around the COP, the continued kind of progress on the key components of it, and a sound and good climate policies coming out of both the Sharm el Sheikh meeting, but also the Abu Dhabi meeting a year and a half from now, will be very, very important. And we, of course, would love to be a constructive partner to that. We believe that it is meaningful to have, given the nature of energy and climate, they're so intertwined. I think we could contribute with both solutions and perspectives, and of course, we are a part of the problem, but we also see ourselves as part of the solution. And I think we have the scale, the competence, and the capabilities to contribute.
Great, Bjorn. Well, I wish you all the best, and hopefully see you in the Middle East, maybe at ADIPEC or COP. And
for sure, I will be in at least for ADIPEC and hopefully also Sharm el Sheikh. So
great. Well, I'll get you down to our studio then. Super.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, just want to say, thanks for giving me your time and sharing your insights and views on where you see your OGCI zero methane emissions initiative going, and all the best for that.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks everyone for watching, and I look forward to bringing you more engaging discussions soon.